Regina Symphony Orchestra to our presentation. We are here representing Runaway Consulting based out of Swift Current, Saskatchewan. You approached us with a problem. We're here to help you with that problem. Along with, we decided that since you guys are a nonprofit going to generate social wealth, we decided we're not going to charge you for our consulting. And as we believe that as a business, not necessarily just for profit, as you are for social gain, we also feel we should do our part in order to advance social equity as well. To my right, my associate is
Rudy Martin.
And to my left,
Cole Anderson.
And I am Gage Habrick, and we are ready to give you a presentation.
Alright, so we're going to briefly take you through the agenda of today's presentation. So first we'll start with the problem statement. Why have you come to us and asked for our consulting skills? The mandate, so what do you guys want as a nonprofit organization? We'll look at your internal strengths and weaknesses. We'll look at external opportunities and threats. We'll look at the entrepreneurial capabilities of the executive director, Tracy. We will look at some alternatives to your current situation. We'll make a decision, and we'll base a recommendation off our decision criteria. We will then give you an implementation plan, look at the risks, look at the critical success factors, and then we'll ask a question. We'll open the floor up for questions.
So the problem statement. Currently, the Regina Symphony Orchestra is running an unsustainable deficit of $350,000, and that obviously needs to change.
So the mandate, you guys at RSO want to expand the family and create connections to the orchestra. So right now your main demographic is of older people, and you want to be able to expand that to new generations to both gain more people so they come to your orchestra so it doesn't close, and also expanding the great thing that is orchestra music by inspiring the new generation. And also for the first 2 points, enhancing awareness about both these things is how you will gather more customers and cater to more of the younger people to get them into the orchestra business and not just leave altogether with the older generation departing us.
Sometimes it doesn't behave so well. Keyboard's probably better to use.
Okay.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the internal strengths and weaknesses. So you have a driven executive director in Tracy. She's very good. We have a collective agreement with musicians, so they can't just also demand a pay increase and your expenses go up drastically. You have an admirable orchestra, it's well known. It also has a historical bonus as the oldest running symphony orchestra in Canada, and also has a charitable status, making it desirable to people who want to help the community. There are a few weaknesses, however. You do have a collective bargaining agreement. This acts as both a pro and a con. You cannot lower musician salaries without negotiations. There is excessive spending, costs $42,000 a night to perform at the Connected Arts Center. And you are a non-profit, so you can't necessarily run it the way you would run a business that is for profit.
Now looking at external analysis. Some opportunities. The new director. With the new director may come some innovation, changes in what you guys are doing right now, which could generate new customers coming towards and watching some of the events. You have dedicated supporters, and there are also donors. These are people that are coming to all the events that you have, or at least as many as they can make, and they're always willing to donate and help out your cause. Another opportunity is you have potential for a new customer base. The untapped market potential for 15-year-olds going to 25 that haven't necessarily heard live symphony orchestra music it's a very large number, and this could mean that you could get a lot more revenue throughout all your events. With some threats now, the new director, with that new innovation or that change, could come some blowback from the already established supporters. These are the ones that are a little bit older in age and don't necessarily like the change. The younger demographic may not be as interested into the symphonies as we currently thought. That's just something we always have to keep in mind. The main demographic is aging. These are 60 to 80-year-olds, and eventually their support's going to fade for obvious reasons as well as maybe financial. There are other entertainment platforms. Things like Netflix charges you $8 a month for unlimited video streaming. I'm sure if you wanted to, you could find some concerts on there. It's also a lot less costly, which means that people may be driven to go to that. Finally, symphony orchestra is a luxury expense. This is the first thing that you're going to cut out of your expenses in your personal budget if it turns out that you don't have enough money to make it to the next month.
So we go through our entrepreneur capabilities. So Tracy, she's a driven person, and you don't just need a good plan, as we will have a good plan, but you also need good people behind it in order to make anything work. You can't do anything with just a plan. You need people to be able to see it through and have the right capabilities in order to see the plan through, as I mentioned before. So she's experienced. She worked at the Winnipeg Orchestra before she worked at yours, and she's passionate about classical music. She's a pianist. She's well educated. She went to the University of Manitoba, and she also reads self-help books about things such as business management and other sections like that. So you know that Tracy is ready to go, ready to see it through, and we have a very good executive record to help follow through our plan.
All right, so we're going to look at a few alternatives. Our first alternative is the status quo, keep doing what you're doing. The second alternative is to raise ticket prices, which is fairly self-explanatory. And the third is we have dubbed Closing the Gap, which we will explain further in the coming slides. So our first alternative is the status quo, so keep on the same path you're currently on. So there are a couple pros to this plan. It is the easiest, you don't have to change anything, and there's no structural changes at all. You just have to keep doing what you're doing. There are, however, some cons. You are running a $350,000 unrecoverable deficit, and it doesn't expand the mandate. You're not getting more people in to view your symphonies, and you're not expanding musical education throughout the city and the surrounding areas.
Raising the ticket prices. Some pros for raising ticket prices is the immediate revenue increase. With more higher cost for every ticket means that you're going to be able to have more of an income to cover your expenses. Another pro is that there's no structural changes in this. Your transition period into raising the ticket prices will be very, very easy. Cons associated with the ticket pricing, the possible loss of an audience. People that may not have been able to, or people that may have been able to afford the tickets at the current price may not be able to afford them going forward if they are raised. It doesn't expand your mandate. This means the ticket prices will only be raised in order to cover the initial costs and all of your expenses, so you'd no longer be running a deficit. And finally, it would increase the feasibility of other entertainment. Like I said before, Netflix is staying at $8 a month and hasn't gone up. People may defer to the other alternatives or options because they're less costly.
We have alternative 3, which we dubbed Closing the Gap. So we're going to increase revenue streams instead of, like my partner mentioned before, just raised prices on existing tickets. We believe that we should take advantage of what we already have that we offer and use that as a way to increase revenue without necessarily increasing the prices for the regular tickets. So some pros of this, it's a long-term plan, so it can see benefit from years in the future, not necessarily just fixing the problem now to have it reshaped later. We get an increased audience because we're also going to expand the mandate and do other things that will be mentioned in the implementation slides. And there's more revenue streams, as I mentioned at the beginning. We're going to expand it, not necessarily just raise the ones we have. And then also we're going to keep prices relative. As I mentioned before, we got to make it so people can afford it. We have to make it so people can buy more things from the Regina Symphony Orchestra or services. And then we can go to decrease expenses because when we plan to expand the mandate, it has to do with volunteering, which will be mentioned in the implementation. And we'll also begin to reduce the deficit from the increased economic benefits our plan will have. There are some cons though, because as I mentioned before, it's a long-term plan. So sometimes people want to see results right now, but it's very improbable that you will see results right now with this plan because it takes the most effort, but it also can offer the most reward. And there's also some structural changes associated with changing prices and adding new prices.
All right, so we're going to look at the decision criteria, why we're going to make the decision to implement what plan we choose. So we're going to look at meeting the mandate first. So we decided to use this as a decision criteria because you want to get out there, you want to expand your base, you want to create music education and have the public be aware of what you're doing. We also looked at economic benefit. You are running a deficit, so this is really something we want to look at. We want to get rid of this in the next 3 years. So we want to see if this plan will benefit us economically, and we're also going to look at feasibility. Can we do it? Is it possible? That doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do. It's just we are able to do it. So our first alternative, it does not meet the mandate. It's not expanding music education. It's not expanding audiences. It does not meet the economic benefit. Currently, what you're doing right now is running you a $350,000 deficit. But it is feasible. You can do it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's smart. The second is raising ticket prices. This is not meeting our mandate because this is only covering existing debts. It does, however, give an economic benefit because you are paying off the deficit of $350,000 and that may be achievable in 3 years. It is also feasible. You can easily raise ticket prices and it doesn't affect much other things aside from maybe audience members that cannot afford it. The Close the Gap alternative does meet the mandate. It, as you'll explain, it really gets people out there, it really gets them knowing about the orchestra, and it will raise audiences. It does benefit us economically, it will help pay off the deficit, and it is feasible. It will take the most work, but it will also give the most reward.
Based on the decision criteria, we recommend the Close the Gap alternative. It enables the symphony to extend their outreach and further people knowing about the Regina Symphony Orchestra. It's the most effort, however, it is the most rewarding plan. So looking at our implementation plan for the short term, that's our current season. We're going to reduce the package availability and instead substitute it for just single ticket sales. We will also increase revenue, as seen by our chart on the right. We're going to charge people $45 a ticket with an estimated 3,000 people showing up at the Symphony Under the Stars. This will bring us in an estimated $93,000 annually. Secondly, we're going to introduce a live stream option. This means people outside of Regina can view the symphony as they perform in any of the events with a $15 subscription fee, and that's an estimated 100 people annually brings us $30,000, or 100 people brings us $30,000 annually. Finally, we're going to be a little bit more aggressive with our advertising. We want people to advertise their product while we're doing our event, or your event, sorry. This is going to bring us in an estimated $14,000 annually. We're going to reduce the expenses where possible. Looking at the lower chart on the right, we're going to lower the admin expense to closer to the industry average with an estimated reduction of $11,349. With this, we're going to begin sessions at surrounding schools where we get professionals from the symphony to go and teach kids how to play these very fine musical instruments. And then hopefully a return for service where the kids will then come and volunteer, maybe working as people in the ticket booths, with an estimated reduction in expense of $8,559.
So we'll get into the end of that season and then the beginning of the next season, so we got some numbers up there. So we anticipate the revenue to be raised to about $2,403,776, and that nets us a profit for about both years, about $175,141. And then from that money, we're going to contribute about $150,000 towards the deficit. You might ask why we don't use the full money, and that is in case for maybe the second year something goes slightly awry, so you still have that extra $25,000 as a contingency fund in order to supplement the cost that may have went wrong with the other one. And also we're going to scale back some more aggressive advertisements. As we have now paid off a majority of the deficit, we feel we could bring back more to the prestige of the orchestra instead of just focusing on the financial gain again and more towards the social benefits as well. And we're going to go to the public awareness because people need to know what we're using that money for. Because all of a sudden they start charging, like we mentioned, for the Symphony Under the Sky, people are going to be mad. But if you make sure that people are aware that they're doing this for them, because if it wasn't going to happen, then they may not get to enjoy the orchestra, it'll be an easier blow to land. We also continue the student sessions and evaluate the budget for that and how much volunteers we are getting and everything related to that.
All right, now we're going to look ahead a bit to the long-term implementation plan. So as you can see, there's a chart on my right. So in the year 2019, we'll pay off our the last of our deficit, so we do meet our 3-year goal. We reduce Symphony Under the Sun prices as we have got rid of the deficit. We do not need that income as much anymore. This is our main source of income to pay off the deficit. We will continue to push the mandate, get people out here, get people to view the orchestra, and we'll continue the public awareness so everyone knows what's going on. We've dug our goal, RSO 2020. So by the year 2020, our deficit will be gone. We'll have a profit of $100,000, and we'll also have a contingency fund of $229,000 in case something goes wrong, as my associate Gage said. So we have some money to pay off anything that may go wrong, and our deficit is gone.
Now looking at some risks and how we might mitigate those risks. The first one would be that nobody wants to view the live stream. We deem this to be highly unlikely as there's a large population outside of Regina that can't necessarily watch the orchestra in the Connexus Arts Center. However, if this were to happen, our solution would be to use the extra revenue to fund the live stream loss that will incur. Our second would be that no one would pay the price for the Symphony Under the Stars. Again, we deem this pretty unlikely as Symphony Under the Stars is the most popular event that the Regina Symphony Orchestra has. However, if this were to happen, our solution would we would extend the repayment of the deficit over the course of maybe 6 years instead of 3. Finally, a decrease in symphony attendance. This would be unlikely as well, however, probably the most likely out of the 3. If this were to happen, we would use revenue from the other revenue streams to cover for the losses again.
Now we've outlined our plan. We believe that is a successful plan that can bring you guys great fortune, I guess, to reduce the deficit and begin to establish more of your social mandate and stop focusing on the financial stuff that doesn't deal with the main goals of the Regina Symphony Orchestra. So there's 3 main factors here that we need to do. We need to achieve financial performance, we need to meet the social mandate, arguably the most effective of the 3, and then we need to increase and do steady attendance. So in order to achieve financial performance, as we mentioned, we need to follow the implementation plan to a T. But if something were to go different and the economic factors were to change heavily, we need to be able to prepare, be able to adapt to that, be more of a fluid system than a rigid system that you can only implement one way. Also need to meet the social mandate. As you are a nonprofit, your main goal is to advance the social equity around the orchestra and around the increase in music education of people, as we mentioned in our implementation plan. And we feel like we need to keep social wealth in mind throughout the implementation and not necessarily just the business aspect. And then at the end, the increased attendance. So in order to that, we need to make sure the public is aware. Through the sessions and other such things, they can go back to their parents, and then they can go back to the education and potentially gain more from the orchestra. Any questions?
Okay, yeah, you're just Okay, so now you have 5 more minutes to do questions.
I'll start here. You guys had mentioned to increase attendance with this closing the gap alternative. What sort of marketing tactics are you guys planning on doing to increase attendance and awareness?
Well, our first option would definitely be social media. It is the least expensive option. With this too, if we were to use social media, it'd be targeted more towards the younger demographic. Other than social media, we go with radio. Radio would meet the older demographic.
So if the majority of your demographic that attends your events are of the older demographic, is social media your best option? I know there's not a lot of cost sometimes with social media, but is that an effective use of marketing?
Looking at the trends with who already attends and who's the committed supporters of the Regina Symphony Orchestra, we found that we wouldn't necessarily need to use radio as much because the people that we would be hitting with the radio advertisements have already been to our events. Sorry.
I want to say just first of all that I appreciate the fact that you guys thought about the business and the social balance that exists in a nonprofit, so good on you for that. I think my question comes back to the marketing angle as well. So when you're looking at some aggressive marketing to increase audiences, I assume that you're thinking about bringing in new audiences, people that don't currently come. So tell me a little bit about like who those audiences are. I know you mentioned social media, but are you specifically thinking about a certain age group, or who are the new audiences?
Well, the demographic we're specifically looking forward to increase is the 20 to 30-year-old audience, the ones that will continue to go through this throughout their lifetimes, so they can start young and keep going on.
And would you match that with any other kind of awareness or outreach that you guys mentioned as well?
Well, around 25 people actually, on average, get married, start to have kids. So we felt that when we brought the orchestrators, I guess, the professional musicians into the schools to teach them, and then the students were going to go back and volunteer, and then they can tell their parents. So that raised awareness through all 12 surrounding high schools in Regina, and then there's a large number of parents with that, and they feel that if the orchestra gave to the schools, then the parents could feel a need to go to the orchestra and experience what their students have been experiencing.
One more quick question. You also mentioned that when the deficit would be paid off, that you would pull back on the aggressive marketing. So if that was successful and you used aggressive marketing and therefore paid off the deficit, why would you pull back?
Because as a nonprofit, the main goal isn't profit, so we think that because it was partly an expense for part of the business to increase marketing expenses, because we also mentioned we would decrease the prices for most of the tickets and make more availability of value packets. So we felt that because you were still making, at the end, after we reduced all the revenues, about $100,000 a year, while with reduced tickets, because again, it's for a social cause, not necessarily for financial, we felt that we should just lower it. So then in order to increase the benefits, those lower things to the people we have now secured as customers.
Great, thank you.
So I got 2 quick questions, I hope. First one is, did you consider anything else in your discussion that you didn't present to us? Other ideas that you sort of dismissed? Some crazy, wacky ideas that you had that you didn't...
Well, we were going to suggest maybe moving to the lower cost option for the venue. However, we found that we needed to raise more awareness, we needed to get more people to come to the symphony, and in order to get more people to come, we needed a place that could support more chairs, I guess, to be filled.
Okay, thank you. The other piece I wanted to key on was Tanya's point around the social license, the social connection. So how could you take that farther? What could you do as a symphony that might do more around that social benefit?
So, well, I think that music education is one of the most important things that people can get in school. So by increasing musical education, we have increased social awareness about music itself. So the younger demographic may turn out more and really just improve, because there's a huge correlation between music and grades and other things. So if we have a generally music educated society, we have a society with much greater musical knowledge, so everyone knows about it.
Okay. Great, I'm good.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.